Have you ever heard stories of a criminal who called the police and confessed to his crime? In this video you will learn a story of a criminal who behaved very strangely and mysteriously. The 911 caller confessed to his crime and disappeared. During the call, he made fun of the police by saying that they were too stupid to arrest him. 6 years have passed since the incident and the detectives still haven't found him. Enjoy watching. This case is about a man named Harold Knight. All his friends and circle called him simply Harold. In 1996, when he was 47 years old, he met Sarah Porter, who was 29 years old. Sarah was a divorced woman with 2 children. She worked as a nurse in the 90s and took care of Harold's sick mother. After spending a lot of time with the Knight family, Sarah started having an affair with Harold. Many people said that Sarah and Harold had a beautiful love affair despite the huge age difference between the two people. The couple got married in 2001. During their first years together, Harold and Sarah enjoyed their marriage and had an active life. They went hiking, mountain biking, and skiing together. Unfortunately, this happy life did not last long. After a while, Harold became cold-blooded and rude to his wife, and even tried to show violence to Sarah's children several times. Her husband's behavior caused many arguments between the couple, and Sarah wanted to file for divorce. However, Harold did not allow her to do so. After a while, Sarah took her children and started living with her ex-husband. Despite the pain of love, Sarah's love for Harold did not end, and she decided to come back to him on the condition that they moved to another area for a while. So the Knight family moved from Michigan to Maine. After 6 years, they returned and the couple started having problems again, which led to a terrible incident. On January 13, 2015, a very strange emergency call came into 911 from the Knight family home.
How can I help you?
Okay. On Sunday, January 11th, I strangled her. She is dead and she's laying on the living room floor.
And what's your name, please?
That's not important. I'm getting ready to leave the country, but we need to get law enforcement out there to do whatever they do with dead bodies.
Caller was Harold. Throughout the 911 call, he calmly stated that he had strangled his wife and was planning to leave the country. Harold also gave the address of the house where the body was found, but this was cut from the recording of the call for privacy reasons. At first, the police treated the call as a prank because they did not believe the perpetrator had reported the crime. However, the police decided to check the address Harold gave. When the police arrived at the scene, they were shocked by what they saw. There were keys on the porch of his house just under the door. Harold had deliberately left the keys so that the police could easily enter the house. When the police officers entered the house, they noticed that there was no mess or signs of a struggle. The police found the body of a woman covered in a sheet on the living room floor. This body belonged to 48-year-old Sarah Knight. On the table next to the body was an envelope containing a photo of Sarah and a letter written by Harold. The letter read, January 11, 2015 at around 3 p.m. Sarah Knight is in heaven with God and the angels. Now Sarah is an angel too. Harold also left phone numbers and addresses on the table so the police could easily contact Sarah's relatives. The police and detectives were shocked by how easy the killer was to make things. When the police saw what was going on in the house, they immediately called the Maine department and announced that it was 66-year-old Harold Knight. The local police forwarded the case to the U.S. Marshals Service. This agency is one of the oldest federal law enforcement agencies in the country, having been tracking fugitive criminals for over 2 centuries. More than 100,000 fugitives were arrested by the company's agents every year. But despite all these thousands of arrests, surprisingly, some crimes managed to hide from the police and detectives for years. Harold was not as simple a criminal as they thought. He was an expert in many different areas. He had planned his escape in advance and prepared this plan in great detail. Another known fact was that Harold had served in the Navy in his youth and had received training in information technology. He was also a former truck driver, an experienced carpenter, and someone who had experience in the wilderness. He had a pilot's license and regularly went rowing in small rowboats for sports. With all his active life and the many different sports he had experienced, the police had predicted that catching Harold would not be easy. At the beginning of the investigation, the detectives were able to almost determine the route Harold might have taken. Despite this information, the police were never close to catching him, as Harold was always one step ahead of the police. Detectives learned that the day after the murder, Harold cashed out all the money in his bank account, about $10,000. After the bank, Harold went to a gun shop where he bought a gun and 40 rounds of ammunition. The criminal withdrew his savings from the bank, armed himself, got into his wife's green car, and drove off to an unknown destination. The police were able to track down the location where Harold had called 911. The signal was picked up by a tower near the city of Ann Arbor, a town 200 kilometers from Harold's home in Fenville and only 45 minutes from the Canadian border. The detectives remembered that Harold was leaving the country in the 911 call. Taking this information into account, the detectives alerted border guards in neighboring Canada about the fugitive. A few days later, another strange event occurred in this case. Witnesses saw Harold 1,500 kilometers away from home in Rangeley. He stayed in a motel in this city for 4 days from January 15th to 19th. Harold had paid cash and rented the motel room under an assumed name. The owner of the hotel said that Harold was very calm but asked strange questions. Harold asked, "Do you know how to get to Saddleback Mountain?" The owner of the hotel asked why Harold wanted to go to such a remote and quiet area. Harold replied, "I came here to snowmobile in the area." Detectives learned that Harold had gone to a grocery store in the town of Rangeley where he purchased sandwiches, chips, soda and a bottle of alcohol. He had paid for his purchases with cash. On January 19th, Harold left the hotel and has not been seen since. At the same time, Sarah's mother had recently received a package with no sender or address. Sarah's mother speculated who might have sent the package. When the police opened the package, they found $2,000 and a 4-page letter written by Harold. The letter said that the money was sent to cover the cost of cremating his wife's body. Harold also wrote that no one would punish him because he watched too many crime shows, that the police were not smart enough to catch him, and that he would not spend a day in jail. In his letter, he also stated the reason for killing his wife. According to Harold, he was involved in the illegal drug trade and his wife claimed that Sarah saw something she shouldn't have seen, so he had to kill her. This was not believed by the police or Sarah's family. Detectives investigated this information and determined that Harold had no connection to the illegal trade. On January 31, 2015, 2 weeks after the murder, the car Harold was driving was found abandoned in the parking lot of a Walmart supermarket in Farmington. Police who found the car said it had no license plates and was covered in thick snow, as if it had been sitting there for a long time. Detectives checked security footage and determined that the car had been there since January 16th. That day, detectives who reviewed the supermarket's security footage were shocked. The man in the footage was Harold, whose appearance had changed beyond recognition. He had dyed his hair and beard black, and was wearing winter camouflage overalls and a Russian-style hat. Despite numerous witnesses and reports of seeing Harold, detectives never got any closer to catching him. In May 2015, 5 months after Sarah was killed, someone using Sarah's Facebook account liked a photo of her relative. Detectives suspected that Harold was the one who hacked into Sarah's Facebook account, as they suspected that only Harold knew Sarah's Facebook password. Detectives have attempted to determine the IP address Sarah used to log into the account, but have been unsuccessful. Harold had somehow managed to hide from detectives. According to the investigation, Harold's last confirmed location was the town of Rangeley. Harold was familiar with the area because he and his wife Sarah lived in Turner, which is in the area, for 6 years. Detectives believe Harold may have fled to Canada. Despite the years that have passed since the incident, police have received numerous reports of sightings of Harold from people living in different states. He has been reported to have been seen in Alabama, Florida, Nebraska, South Dakota, Montana and Canada. Detectives have found no evidence of sightings in any of them. Despite all these theories, police and detectives are still searching for Harold Knight today. If he were alive, he would be old. No one has ever figured out what caused his crime. Harold may still be hiding somewhere, planning his next move away from the police. For more videos like this and to support me, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, comment and like the videos. See you in the next video.